Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we are back doing a video on the Houston Rockets offseason recap. If it's your first channel, if I could speak right there, if it is your first time at the channel, hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this type of content. We holistically cover the NBA, all 30 teams, cover the draft, cover international basketball, and whatnot in between. Now, today we'll be discussing everything that the Houston Rockets did this offseason. They made a lot of moves. One might say the biggest move was them going out and getting themselves Kevin Durant. And obviously, I think if you're a fan of this organization, you would have to agree that so far they put all the cards on the table without having to risk anything. All right? They're not mortgaging the house to become a contender, but they're building it up. I'm not going to say similar to the Oklahoma City Thunder, but in an era that prioritizes depth, they are making sure that they have enough of it while having two solid shot creators in Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün lead the way. So, as I said, hit that like and subscribe button. It will mean a ton. It helps out the channel a ton. But I'd like to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. What do you think of the offseason that the Houston Rockets have had? And do you guys agree with my sentiment that this is a team that is primed to be contenders this coming season? Now, I just also don't like how, I feel like I should be more in the middle, and now I feel like this is better in the middle. Either way, let's discuss how they kept the core together. Yes, in a year that they brought in Kevin Durant, they didn't gouge the roster to do it. They were able to keep the core together and not only keep the players that were already on the roster, but bring back the ones that were free agents. Steven Adams, a guy that they love to play back to basket bigs with Steven Adams, and Alperen Şengün being able to play off of one another. Now, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jae'Sean Tate, which Jae'Sean Tate was probably the most surprising out of all of them. I actually thought Jae'Sean Tate was gone, ladies and gentlemen. I thought that was a guy who contending teams were going to want to bring in a point of attack defender that was of his caliber and move forward. But with him staying, that gives them just more and more depth that what we talked about a few minutes ago, the prioritization of depth. And sometimes right now, I feel like when I'm speaking, I'm just not speaking in the fullest of terms. Through a sip of coffee, because that's what was needed. And Fred VanVleet brought back on a cheap deal. Shout out the Hoops Hype Rumors page and, of course, the Houston Rockets team announcements. Now, who came in? They brought back Clint Capela, ladies and gentlemen. Great. Now they have Clint Capela, Mr. Alperen Şengün, Steven Adams as their guys. I love that. Back-to-back bigs who are able to all rebound the ball, especially on offense, protect the rim. And that's something about Alperen Şengün that people are going to be like, oh, Alperen Şengün isn't a good defender. Well, you didn't watch basketball last year because Alperen Şengün statistically actually qualified as one of the better centers in the top half of the league this past season. Ime Udoka has been working with our boy, and he's a fantastic rebounder and a fantastic passer. Clint Capela isn't the passer that Steven Adams or Mr. Alperen Şengün is, but him technically being the third string big, and it's because they run a lot of two back-to-basket big sets where Steven Adams will run screens or Alperen Şengün will run screens for other players, and they do it to create a lot of off-ball movement and create shot opportunities, but also they create this almost like they're both doing Gortat screens, and they create so much space. So I expect Clint Capela to be another guy who's going to be center by committee approach right there that I'm absolutely going to adore. We all know Kevin Durant through that 7-team trade. Yeah, there were so many teams involved in that deal, but they were able to get it over the finish line and bring in a shot creator for basically just Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks, where it felt like it was going to be Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. Not only did they do that, but they extended Jabari Smith to a very, very friendly contract that not only is friendly towards him, but is friendly towards the team in terms of its cap hit. They brought in Dorian Finney-Smith, a.k.a. DFS, on a 4-year deal. That's a guy who can, score in a double-digit amount while being a 40% three-point shooter, a guy who can grab like 7 rebounds a game and guard 1 through 4, maybe even some 5. J.D. Davison from the Boston Celtics and Isaiah Crawford from the Sacramento Kings both were on 2-ways last year, are going to be on 2-ways with this team. They also brought in another defensive player in Josh Okogie, who people really forget what he was doing with the Suns at one point, averaging like for a stretch 16 points a night. He's a former teammate of Kevin Durant. He's a point of attack defender that this team needs. All right, in terms of third layer, like they already have Tari Eason and Mr. Amen Thompson. Now they brought in Mr. Dorian Finney-Smith. And by the way, they had Jae'Sean Tate. So right there, 4 defenders. Oh, but there's been in the past where injuries have happened. So if 2 of those guys are hurt, if 3 of those guys are hurt, you still are going to have Josh Okogie now. So you have 5 defenders that, in all honesty, all 5 of those guys, if they played starting minutes for any team, they would be all defense caliber defenders. Now, Cam Matthews on Exhibit 10 will probably be on the G League team unless he shocks somebody and one of the 2 ways gets cut for him. But basically, be on the G League team, spend 60 days there, gets a $50,000 bonus. G League salary, I think, bumped up to 60-something and change. So you basically make north of 100 figures playing in North America basketball, specifically in the United States. And I think the G League even takes care of your housing now. So it's a really good deal. And again, he could get himself a 2-way if he surprises the team and earns that, and they cut somebody for him, which is possible. Now, who has left? We mentioned it earlier. Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green was a part of that 7-team trade. Jack Landell was waived on a non-guaranteed contract, which freed up $8 million in cap space. And Cam Whitmore, it was a salary cap crunch. And in terms of playing time, timeline, and everything, Cam Whitmore was just not fitting where the team was at anymore. And they go and send him to a great situation where, dude, he could be a most improved player candidate, like most improved player of the year candidate next year. Like, I honestly, if you haven't put out a bet yet, put those bets out. I'm not a betting guy, but hey, put one out there. How was that, guys? Now let's move forward. Let's look at this depth chart. Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith, we assume is going to return to the starting lineup, or he'll play that 6-man role that he was playing at the end of the year. Alperen Şengün make out the starting lineup. Now, Reed Shepherd or Aaron Holiday will duke it out for that final, or not final, but that backup point guard spot rotation, because I think they are going to run like 3 wings off the bench with Josh Okogie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tari Eason, Jae'Sean Tate, and Jeff Green. All 5 of those dudes, I think, are going to just take turns replacing Jabari Smith, Kevin Durant, and Mr. Amen Thompson, while Aaron Holiday, Reed Shepherd, and Mr. Fred VanVleet are going to be guys who will be more of the pure guard rotation, and then they'll go 3 wings and then a big. And like we said, they have 3 bigs: Steven Adams, Clint Capela, and Alperen Şengün, with Jabari Smith being able to play switch big, small ball 5. Like, he's able to do it. Not like I would say consistently or like long-term minutes, but he is able. So who is getting paid? Obviously, as you see, Kevin Durant's making the most money, and right now it seems like they're going to do a 2-year $100 million deal or 2-year $90 million deal. Seems like he's going to not take the max and is going to leave some money there, which seemed to be always the biggest thing with any of these trades, or that were going to happen for Kevin Durant, were always hinging, and a contingent part of the trade was that he was going to resign there, and a large part that certain teams weren't interested in Kevin Durant allegedly was not wanting to pay him the 2-year $110 million max. Now we're hearing that Houston isn't probably going to give him that, but it's going to be maybe a 2-year $150 million annual average value, while Alperen Şengün got extended. That's paying him this year just under $34 million, $25 for Fred VanVleet on that extension that he returned to. Steven Adams making $14 million on the re-signed contract. Dorian Finney-Smith on that new deal is making $12.7. Jabari Smith, I believe, is in the final year of his rookie deal, as the new year deal will kick in next year, and that's making $12.35 this year. Reed Shepherd, second year of a rookie scale contract, is making $10.6. Amen Thompson in the third year of a rookie skills contract is making $9.6. Clint Capela on that 3-year deal that he just signed, making $6.7. Tari Eason going to be extension eligible. He's coming up in his 4th season, making $5.6 on that standard rookie contract. And I think Tari is going to be someone that they keep. Now let's look at the payroll. Well, this is a team that you would have thought was going to have to start doing salary cap gymnastics because of the moves that they made. Nah, dude. Rafael Stone. Yo puedo hablar español porque mis padres son de Argentina y no sé por qué, pero ahora me voy a hablar español. Y Rafael Stone, él puede hablar español, no sé, pero sé que son rosas para New York Knicks or Nueva York Knicks. I don't know how to say Knicks in Spanish, but either way, $194.69 million is the total payroll, which basically They're over the tax line. They're going to have a tax bill of $7 million. Boo! That's fine. They don't really care. They are $1.26 million under or 1.26 mil below the first apron and 13.13 million below the second apron. That's what they want. They still have the non-taxpayer mid-level exception of 1.7. What does that mean? They can basically sign someone if, let's say, the minimum, my understanding right here, they can sign a guy to 1.7 more than the minimum contract, whatever their year of service. Let's say, I think they're a 10-year vet, it's 3.3. So I think they could sign somebody to a $5.5 million flat even contract and use 1.7 million of that in the non-taxpayer exception and 3.3, I believe. Someone quote me on that, which would allow them to do a little bit of salary gymnastics. But it's more so if in the sense, because I don't know if they could do it for trade. The way that would actually work is if they were trading for a guy and let's say they used the trade exception of Cam Whitmore and they were still short $1.7 million, they can use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception now to get. But the thing is that non-taxpayer, they want to probably use that 1.7 in a trade or something, because if they don't get out of the tax, there'll be a taxpayer mid-level exception moving forward. So whole little salary cap gymnastic things to watch out for, which could be a foreshadow of a trade that happens, which maybe they'd want to avoid the tax, which would allow them for more cap flexibility down the road, which is always possible with how these contracts are staggered. Now, that was cap holds and stuff, but I forgot to delete that slide because I didn't like how it came out. I forgot to delete the stuff about Boban Marjanovic and Jack McPhee, so ignore it because they technically have cap holds on them according to like SpotRack and CapSheets.com, but that's not what you guys are here for. What are you guys here for? What do we want to talk about? They added Kevin Durant. They didn't gut the roster by doing so. They got themselves Okogie, DFS, and Capela all on team-friendly deals. They kept cap flexibility. They got defense, both perimeter and interior upgrades. They have 15 dudes, or at least 13 dudes, 12 dudes that would be rotational players in an 8-man rotation for 20 of the other teams in the league. They have the versatility, positional-wise, a lot of wings, a lot of forwards. You could say maybe an extra guard might make you happy, but I think it's fine. They have a lot of rim pressure with Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün. Kevin Durant's more of a three-point shooter at this point, but I really like this, and obviously they were able to keep the main rotation pieces, the grit grinder in Fred VanVleet, FVV. Steven Adams seems like a really good locker room guy for them. I like that they kept Jabari and Tate. They kept their identity, and they have continuity here, even though they made a move. But now Ime Udoka has at his disposal one of the most switchable lineups. They can play any style. They can go big with Alperen Şengün, Steven Adams, or Clint Capela, depending if Steven or Clint's knees hold up. And then you also have yourself Kevin Durant, who can play not shooting guard, small forward in that thing. So you have two bigs, a small forward and Kevin Durant, and then you could have Amen Thompson at shooting guard and Fred VanVleet at point guard. And you still have Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, and so many other guys, and Dorian Finney-Smith, Josh Okogie, that then if you wanted to go small, you can play Jabari Smith at center, as we mentioned earlier, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Fred VanVleet out there with Jabari Smith or Alperen Şengün at center. And I think they've been able to, Raphael Stone has been able to take the patient rebuild that they had to this aggressive title push without handicapping themselves or shooting themselves in the foot in under 3 seasons. Now they're primed to leap into contender status if everybody takes the leap that is expected. That is good roster construction right there. So as we wrap up today's video, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think? Comment your opinion. Subscribe for more content. I do work for hoopshype.com, so go to hoopshype.com if you guys want to see more work like this. It'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's everything I had to say right here, guys. If you guys made it to the end, you clearly like this type of stuff, so subscribing will help out the channel a ton. Like and comment. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Until next time, guys. Next, we'll be doing Golden State. I think is still Indiana, because Golden State's technically incomplete because we're waiting for the Jonathan Kuminga thing. I should have done that with the Chicago Bulls, but at the time I thought Josh Giddey was a lock to go to the Bulls, and I'm still hoping for that. And it seems like Kuminga is too. I think the news that's coming out is that Kuminga is just going to come on the qualifying offer, so maybe we just do that too. But that's it. Ciao.